Hello out there. Welcome to Season 5 of Your Next Mission video podcast. Can you name the largest non-government provider of social services in the country? I bet you can't. I couldn't either. It's the Salvation Army. Today we'll talk about the long, varied history and some of the programs they offer that help our service members, veterans, and their families. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Your Next Mission video podcast, where we tell the stories of those who have served in the past and those who are serving today. From transition to financial wellness, VA benefits to mental health, we cover issues facing veterans, active military, and their families. Now here's your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army and co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation, Jack L. Tilley.
Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of our veterans, service members, and families for your service to our great country. Now, before we get started, I personally want to thank our presenting sponsors, Navy Federal Credit Union, whose members are the mission, and Purdue Global, where you can get your start, your comeback, with additional sponsorship from Blue Cross Blue Shield, FEP Dental, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, FEP Vision, and USAA. Together, they make your next mission happen. They love our veterans and families, and I'm going to say it every week, we love them too. Our show today is about the Salvation Army and the many ways they help our veterans across the country and the world. And I'm happy to introduce the National Commander of the Salvation Army in the United States, Commissioner Kenneth G. Hodder. Commissioner, welcome to the show.
Sergeant Major, thank you so much. It's an absolute delight to be with you today.
I'm glad. We have a lot to talk about. Before we do that, could you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Glad to. My wife and I have been Salvation Army officers for 36 years now. We've had the privilege of serving in a number of different locations, both in this country and around the world. Although I never intended to be a Salvation Army officer, I practiced law before becoming an officer. But I do come from a long line of Salvationists. I'm a sixth-generation Salvation Army officer, and I absolutely love what I do. Wouldn't do anything else.
Well, you know, I never thought I'd be a soldier, and I certainly never thought I'd be in a podcast. So that's we got some in common right there.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we're all aware of the Salvation Army. I told you a few minutes ago that my mother rang a bell for probably 20 or 30 years. And we all see the bell ringers on Christmas time, if nothing else. But could you tell us a little bit more about the mission of the organization?
Happy to do so. The Salvation Army was founded in 1865 in the East End of London by William and Catherine Booth. And since its very early days, the Army has always had a two-part mission: to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and meet human needs in his name without discrimination. So the Salvation Army is designed to go anywhere, do anything, if it will lift up Jesus Christ and if it will help people with whatever need that they might have. So we're a multi-pronged organization now in 134 countries around the world.
And about 7,000 different locations. That's the number right there?
Here in this country, we have about 7,000 locations. We have about 15,000 Salvation Army officers who are the ordained clergy, about 45,000 soldiers. They wear blue epaulets. They are the laity. We have about 65,000 employees and a little over 3 million volunteers. So it's a big army in this country.
Wow, that's huge. It's really, I got to tell you something, it's much bigger than what I thought. When you said 65,000 to 3 million, that's a lot of people. And that's a large organization. And certainly a lot of people believe in what you're doing. That's for sure. How did? Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just saying a lot of people believe in the Army. The officers, of course, give their lives to it. But we have this enormous army behind the Army that believes in the results that the Salvation Army is able to achieve, and that's very gratifying.
Yeah. How did veterans come to be a key part of the Salvation Army's work in this country? I mean, I know you have a lot of veterans that are involved with the Salvation Army.
It's a fascinating story. In 1915, General John J. Pershing was commanding a cavalry regiment out of the Presidio in San Francisco. his regiment was called down to the southern border in order to find Pancho Villa. While he was there was a fire in his quarters, and his wife and his 4 daughters were killed. When he came back to the Presidio, he received a note from the local Salvation Army officer, a man by the name of Colonel Henry Lee, expressing condolences and prayers for the then brigadier. Well, he was so touched that he wrote a personal note of thanks to Colonel Lee. 2 years later, of course, he's commanding the American Expeditionary Force, going over to France, and he remembers what the Salvation Army meant to him. So he contacted our national commander, Evangeline Booth, and said, I'd like the same thing for my boys when they go overseas. Would you send Salvationists to them to help them? And of course, we said yes. So within about 2 months, a little over 200 Salvationists, most of them young women with no military training, found themselves in the trenches at the front lines in France, helping to encourage the soldiers with little words of scripture, with writing letters home, with helping the wounded. And that started a relationship with the military that has blossomed in many ways over the years.
Yeah, I think about myself when I was in Vietnam back a long, long time ago, back in '67. But I remember seeing things that we'd get from the Salvation Army, whether or not it was a Bible or somebody come out and give you cookies or doing different things. I always tell people sometimes it's just the little things that mean so much. A hug or a hey or God bless you for what you're doing, or even if you just need to sit down and talk to somebody about an issue that you have that maybe you don't want to share with nobody else. So that's you're doing a great job.
Well, that's awfully kind of you. That really is the point. The Salvation Army believes that whether the service we provide is big or small, that to the individual, that can mean the world, and it can have an enormous significance for them. And really, that was related to what happened in France. While our young people were over there and they were helping the soldiers, our young ladies decided that they wanted to do something that would give the boys a taste of home. Mm-hmm. So they started to make these little fried things, and they called them donuts.
Yeah.
And the soldiers loved them so much, they started to call themselves the Doughboys.
Yeah, yeah.
And they got home, they told their wives and their mothers and their girlfriends, and as a result, the American obsession with the donut was born. So those little things can make a big difference.
Yeah, no, when you was talking, I was thinking about the Salvation Army when I was, again, back in Vietnam or anywhere else. I used to get letters. They get, the Salvation Army bring letters. They give you a letter to read, to any service member or whatever. Thank you for all that you're doing. So that was always uplifting to me anyway. Homelessness is a big problem in the country, and it just, in my mind, I'm sure in yours too, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It affects, a lot of veterans. A lot of veterans struggle when they get out of service. How big of a priority is that the Salvation Army with helping our homeless veterans, or homeless anyway?
Well, homelessness is one of the main priorities for the Salvation Army right now, because post-pandemic, we're seeing a lot of economic impacts. The same thing happened after the recession in 08-09. The next few years had a long economic tail hitting the people who were most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's certainly true for veterans. In 2022, between 2022 and 2023, the number of homeless veterans went up by 7%, when in the preceding decade, it had been cut by more than half. So we are seeing a rise in veterans homelessness, which is a great concern to us. So at all of our programs, and recognizing the special needs of veterans, the Salvation Army is doing everything it can to help.
Yeah, it seems to me, like you said, it's really, I guess the question is, why do veterans struggle so much, you think, when they get out there? Do you ever get any word about, what they're struggling with?
Oh, absolutely. In addition to the economic circumstances which hit every American, in addition to the substance abuse issues which hit many Americans, veterans deal with PTSD. They deal with the loss of a family or a community support structure, particularly after they leave the military. So as a result, in those first few years, particularly after they've separated from service, they are more exposed. So we believe that's the reason that on a percentage basis, homeless veterans constitute a larger portion of the homeless population than they do in the population as a whole.
Wow. I want to say one thing. When I came out of the Army, I stayed in the Army, like I told you, I stayed in the Army a long time. I stayed about 36 years in the service. And one of the things that I personally always struggled with is just sort of fitting in. And I think a lot of people, a lot of service members, men and women that go to war, come back and they struggle because they change. I don't care who you are, you're going to change in ways you look at things and way you see things when you go to war. And they change, and when they go back to the community, they just struggle about being a part of the community again. And we always talk on the show about finding their tribe, finding the people they really feel comfortable about. It's really about veterans, helping veterans a little bit. So it's a lot more anyway. So I think it's important that we do all we can to help the veterans and family members. But it's a struggle, and it takes a while. I'm not sure if people come out. I'm sure it takes 5 or 10 or 15 years, depending on what their jobs are. And the other thing is, it depends on what they've seen and what they've gone through. Anytime that you either take a life or see a human life or see somebody killed in combat, it changes you inside. You sort of look at things just a little bit differently.
Oh, absolutely. You put your finger on it, Sergeant Major, when you say finding a tribe. We all need those connections. And in the military, you have such strong bonds, you have such strong associations, and you endure so much together that when that is lost, when someone is a veteran, has left the military, they're at loose ends. They're at loose ends in terms of the world that they had come from before they went into the military, and they're at loose ends in terms of the loss of those daily associations on which they've come to depend. So that makes them prone to all kinds of influences that normally they could resist, whether it's drugs or it's social isolation. There are all sorts of things that can really hit someone hard. So the sooner they can connect with others who understand their situation, who have been through it, and this is very often the case when we do veterans programs across the country, the more successful their restoration to society as a whole is going to be.
Yeah, I think you hit on something really important. I always tell people that unless you walked in my boots, you may not understand exactly what or how I feel or what I'm going through, and that's a struggle for a lot of people. I mean, I've been in discussions where I was, talking about combat or talking about war, and maybe open it up a little bit, and really, quite frankly, when you do that, it's therapy for you to discuss those things. And sometimes people change the subject, they'll talk about something else, or they'll say, I know, or whatever, and just sort of ignore that and just keep going on. But it's tough for a lot of veterans, and I'm just proud what you guys are, what the Salvation Army is doing, and what you personally are doing to help our veteran community and their families. Sir, I want to talk about a couple of the Salvation Army programs to fight substance abuse that you talked about just a second ago, which can certainly lead to homelessness. But first, we need to take a quick break. So, sir, I know you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to follow instructions. So stay right there. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir.
All right. This is Your Next Mission video podcast with me, your host, Jack L. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major in the Army. If you're enjoying this discussion, and I know that you are, because we're talking about veterans and veterans' families to help them with homelessness or drug abuse, please like us. Click on that subscribe button below. And be sure to click on the bell to receive notifications of all of our upcoming video podcast releases. I'll be right back after word from our presenting sponsors.
You're watching Your Next Mission video podcast, proudly presented by Navy Federal Credit Union, the most trusted credit union owned by members of the military community, serving all branches of the armed forces and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. And Purdue Global. You're ready for a comeback, and with Purdue Global, you can do more than take classes. You can take charge of your story, of your career, of your life. Earn a degree you can be proud of and get an education employers respect. Start your comeback at PurdueGlobal.edu. Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. We're talking with the National Commander of the Salvation Army and the United States Commissioner, Kenneth G. Hodder, about all the things they do to help our veterans and families. Before we jump back into our discussion, I'd like to take a few seconds to tell you about a new program we're excited to call Your Next Mission VCS, a Veterans Community Support Program. We'll provide personal one-on-one support to address the unique needs within our veteran community through our many partnerships with other veteran service organizations. Please check us out at yournextmission.org/VCS and register to participate today. Remember, we want to help you, your family, with whatever your issues are facing. So please reach out to us. Commissioner Hodder, people can find themselves homeless or on the edge of homeless for a variety of reasons, including substance abuse. Would you tell us about your adult rehabilitation centers and what you're doing to help them there?
Glad to. The Adult Rehabilitation Center is a Salvation Army program that's entirely free and available to anyone who is either suffering from a substance abuse issue or has been incarcerated and has come out with no place to go, or perhaps who has been isolated from their family. They've not been able to rebuild relationships. So we often find that veterans who have faced challenges will come to the Adult Rehabilitation Center, where we will take a three-pronged approach. First part is, of course, the counseling, the conversation that you mentioned earlier, Sergeant Major, just giving them a chance to share. Second, there's work therapy, which will usually be done in the context of job training. And third, there's always a spiritual element in the Salvation Army. Consistent with our mission, our intention is to help heal the soul through Jesus Christ, as well as provide those practical steps that are going to help them in their life.
Yeah. You know, when you say getting closer to God, I just got to tell you something real quick here. I don't think there's anybody that's winning the combat that doesn't say, God, if you just get me out of here, I'll never do it again. Everybody gets a lot closer to God anytime they're in those kind of situations. Do you get a lot of veterans that come to the rehabilitation center? I guess you do. I guess you must.
Oh, we absolutely do, a large number. And when they come, it's interesting, Sergeant Major, they will find their tribe again. And so very often, after they have completed the program, and of course, if they don't make the program, they can come back as many times as they wish, no cost, you're always welcome. But when they complete the program, we often find that they want to stay. So you will find that the staff at our adult rehabilitation centers is very often composed largely of veterans, because they have come, they want to serve, they're giving back to those that they care about. They have wonderful stories that they can share. It really turns out to be incredibly productive, not only for them, but for the new folks who come in the door.
Yeah, do you invite the families to come? Did the spouse come with them for the counseling? And the children, I guess, too.
Oh, absolutely. There's a 30-day period just after they've come in. It's a 6-month residential program. So for the first 30 days, they immerse themselves in it. But after those 30 days, we invite their family to come for worship. On Sunday and on Wednesday night, we invite them to come and interact with their loved one. There's no sense in which they are set apart. We want them to have those connections, because that's going to be a part of helping them move forward in life.
Is this a live-in program? When they come into the program, do they get in a program? Did they live in? Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a live-in residential program, and it's all made possible by people giving of their old clothes. It's made possible from those little nickels and dimes that go into the kettle every Christmas. Those little contributions make a huge difference in the lives that the Salvation Army works with.
Before we got on the show, we talked a little bit about marketing for the Salvation Army. How do you market these kind of programs? How do you get the word out that tells people that, what you have available to help our veterans and families?
Our best marketing is through the people that the Salvation Army touches. We help about 25 million people every year across the country.
Wow.
And it is their stories told to their family and to their friends, which are the best advertising for the Salvation Army. We've never spent a great deal of money in terms of regular advertising. We like to treat all the money that we do have as being very sacred, in the sense that it should be put to what people intended it to go to.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it the way we do.
Yeah, so it's more word of mouth. Just spread the word of mouth and churches
Word of
and
mouth.
stuff. Yeah. That's you know, it's we talk about all the time that 90% of the people who come to the military don't retire from the military. You know, say 3, 5, 6, 7 years and get out of the service. And a lot of time they're 18, 19, and 20 and years old. But I think those are the young adults. We got to figure out a way to reach those young adults to make sure they understand what's available for them. So I'm glad you came on the show, because we're going to help you get the word out a little bit more. I know you don't want to market, but we want to help you market just a little bit.
This is a big help to us.
Well, I hope so. You also have a program called Harbor Light Centers, I guess it is. What do you do there, and how does it really differ from the adult rehabilitation centers? What's the difference in the two, I guess?
The Adult Rehabilitation Center is a 6-month program. The Harbor Light is more for street level. It is the emergency response. It can be a clinical program. These are for the men and the women who are on the streets. They need an immediate place to go. Very often people will come into a Harbor Light and then go to an adult rehabilitation center. There's no work therapy at the Harbor Light. It's simply an opportunity for them to detox if they have suffered from a drug addiction, or overcome their alcoholism in terms of being inebriated. But the Harbor Light is the front line. It's the means by which the Salvation Army says you're loved, you're cared for, there's someone here for you right now, even in this desperate moment.
Yeah, I've got to ask this question too. You know, with the security in our country, does Salvation Army have any kind of security for them when they go out there? They probably don't, do they?
We generally don't. We have found really over the years, Sergeant Major, that the Salvation Army uniform is itself a tremendous means of protection for our people, because it is recognized as a helping hand. It's recognized as someone who cares. So generally, no, sir, we don't really take security with us.
Yeah, I guess that's the old soldier coming out of me thinking about, hey, I want to make sure I'm safe there. Well, again, this is a great discussion, and I have a couple more questions for you. But first, we need to take a next break. This is great. I can tell you to stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, sir.
I'll be here.
Now, here's a word from 2 more of the organizations that make this show possible.
You're watching Your Next Mission video podcast, brought to you in part by Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Dental, Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Vision.
Part of transitioning out is that dental and vision insurance breaks off from your medical insurance.
Vision and dental is very important to be able to enjoy your retirement.
Blue Cross Blue Shield makes the transition so much easier.
And USAA.
A promise is a trust not to be broken, whether spoken with an oath or sealed with a pinky. And after 100 years, we're still taking care of the military community and their families. That's our mission, always.
Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. We're blessed to be here today with Commissioner Kenneth G. Hodder, the National Commander of the Salvation Army. Remember, this is your show. We know there's so many issues that directly affect you, and we want to address each and every one of them. So please, I'm going to say it again, so please, as I said before, reach out to me. Tell me what topics you'd like me to cover. You can call or text me at 844-424-113, or send me an email at smatilley@yournextmission.org. And guess what? I'll reach back out to you. Commissioner Hodder, do you think people understand just how much the Salvation Army is doing to help people? Many of the veterans who are suffering from things we've been talking about, like substance abuse and homelessness, do you think people really know all the things you're doing? I mean, I knew what you did, but I had no idea all the people you had working, all the volunteers, everything else. But do you think everybody knows about you?
Well, I think very few people understand the scope of Salvation Army work. Very often people will say to me, "Oh, Salvation Army, we love you." And I'll say, "That's very kind. Do you know what we do?" Well, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's something good. The Salvation Army is not unhappy with that answer at all,
Yeah.
because we're really anxious to help people, whatever their need, whether it's children, whether it's senior citizens, whether it's young families, whether it's someone who needs job retraining, whether it's someone on the street who needs rehabilitation, whether it has to do with job training. The Salvation Army is about meeting that need. When we send someone to a community sergeant major, when we send them out, we say, do what that community needs to have done and do it in the name of Christ. So we are going to provide food, and we'll find housing, and we'll provide job training, we'll find clothes, whatever it is, the Salvation Army wants to be there. So the fact that people can't articulate a particular program is just fine with us.
I've got to tell you this story. I've told it before, but I'm going to tell it again because I think it's important. When I went to Vietnam, they gave me a small Bible, a small Bible to put in my pocket and all that stuff. And I got to be honest with you, I never opened the Bible. I put it in a box, and then I just left it there in a .50 caliber box on the tank. And then one day, I hadn't been there very long. One day, I opened that Bible up, and there was a blood print on the front cover of this Bible, and I don't know where it came from. I never opened the Bible, and so I got to admit, I kept it there for me, because I thought this is something very special. And so everywhere I went, I kept that Bible with me. And after I finished my time in Vietnam and I left, and when I was getting ready to leave, I was out in the field and they contacted me to leave. I was getting all my stuff off the tank and stuff, and I ran in to get that Bible, and it was gone. And so I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, really, I was thinking, God was there to help me, and that was His way of showing that He was helping me. So it was really pretty neat. It's just, it's sometimes little things happen, and you can't understand exactly why they happened, but you just know they did happen. So.
Well, God is always there for us in whatever moment we find ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's as true for veterans as it is for anyone. And so when the Salvation Army provides a cup of water, it's done in Christ's name. When the Salvation Army provides a Bible, it's done in Christ's name. Because the fundamental message is that we're all loved and cared for by God.
Yeah.
And we need to remember that.
Yeah, God bless you, sir. What if somebody in an audience that's listening today, if they want to help, how can they do that?
Well, there are a number of ways. First of all, if they know someone, or if there's anyone listening here today, Sergeant Major, that needs some assistance of whatever kind, we hope that they will contact the Salvation Army, because we're here to help, and we'd be delighted to do so. If someone wants to help us and they don't have an immediate need, we would love to have you join us as one of our volunteers. We need people to come and provide regular assistance at one of our local programs around the country, or at Christmas to ring bells, as your mother did.
Yeah.
They can find out information on all those things at salvationarmyusa.org, and we would love to welcome them to our Army.
Yeah, I've got to talk about my mom one more time. Because she was, I don't know, she just had a big heart, and she loved people, and the kids around my block when I was a small kid, that they'd always come to my house to get extra food. It was really sort of funny. But I guess today, just talking to you and thinking back, a lot of years ago now, I never realized the importance of what she was doing. I just thought it was something, I got to be honest, I thought it was something sort of goofy. I didn't think anything about it. And I never really understood the importance. But in life, it's about giving. It's about trying to help your fellow man and woman. And my mother was doing that in her way, which I thought was really pretty neat. And so I'm glad I talked to you today, because that makes me I'm proud of my mom anyway, but I'm more proud of what she was doing. That's for doggone sure. So and again, it's the neat thing about, I had no earthly idea that the money he was raising was staying right there in the community. So it was pretty, it's pretty neat to know that that she was doing that. And for the people that are listening, sometimes it's just the small things, whether or not you can give somebody a hug or pat them on the back or give them a Bible or give them a hug or whatever. But don't walk by somebody that needs help or assistance. Do something, whatever it is. Help them out. Do what you can or help them in any way that you can.
If folks are able to do just a little bit of volunteer work, as your mom did, just standing on the street corner, doing a simple thing like ringing a bell, it changes lives. And I've seen it happen time and again.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, it does change lives. In fact, I think in our lifetime, in all of our lifetimes, in all of our lives, we ought to do all we can to help our fellow man or woman. I know that you said it already, but I'm going to say it again. If somebody really wants to learn more about, to get in touch with the Salvation Army, how should they do that? Probably give me that website. Is there a phone number too, sir, or something else? Is there a phone number they can call to?
I think the best way is either to call their local Salvation Army, again, 7,000 locations. We're in every zip code. You can get us locally, or go to salvationarmyusa.org.
There you go. Sir, this has been a great discussion, and first of all, I got to thank you for what you do and what your organization does, the Salvation Army, because you're making a difference. And really, I always tell certain people, not everybody, that you're quiet professionals that are doing God's work, that don't really say a whole lot about what you're doing. They just get the job done. I think there's a lot of people that do talk a lot about what they do, but they just talk about it. You don't talk about it, you do it. You make a difference each and every day in the lives of just a lot of people. So thank you for what you do. Any final thoughts, anything you want to share with the audience that maybe we talked about or you want to reemphasize or want to say something else? Anything you want to share with us?
Well, first of all, thank you for those kind comments. And may I just say how much I admire you and the work that you do on this podcast. You bring focus and attention and support to our veterans across this nation, to whom we all owe a tremendous debt of gratitude. So thank you, Sergeant Major, for what you're doing.
Well, I'm always motivated. I'm always saying a special word. I'm going to say it in a minute. I'm going to hear your response now. When somebody motivates me, I always give them a big hooah. What do you do, sir?
And we say hallelujah.
Hey, God bless you, and thank you so much for coming on the show, sir.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. God bless you.
Thanks to Commissioner Kenneth G. Hodder for being with us today. I'm Jack L. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, and you've been enjoying Your Next Mission video podcast, and thank you for joining us. Log on our website at yournextmission.org and leave me a review. I always say I hope it's a good review, but if it's a bad one, I guess I'm old enough to take it. While you're there, you can visit our nonprofit and corporate partners who have jobs and services available that can assist you in your transition from the military. And check out our job board in partnership with Recruit Military, where you can search for a job that's just right for you. You can find a short video that will help fine-tune your search and where you can also create your own personal profile. You can follow me on all my personal social media pages, Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Rumble. And if you like what we're doing with Your Next Mission, please click on that subscribe button below. And don't forget to click on the bell to receive notifications about all of our upcoming video podcasts. Don't forget, we want to hear from you. Please leave me a message or send me a text at 844-424-1134. Send me an email at smatilley@yournextmission.org. Thanks again to Commissioner Hodder from the Salvation Army for being with us today. What a great individual that's doing so much, that's not asking for a whole lot from anybody. He's just out there every day doing something for all of us, for our country, for the men and women of our country, and for our veterans and the veteran community. I'm glad I had him on the show. I'm glad I had him on the show for a whole lot of reasons. I told you about Vietnam, about God, about believing in life, believing in God, believing in yourself. But it's also glad about him bringing back memories of my mom that stood out there for, again, I don't remember how many years because I was a little kid, 20 or 30 years, and rang that bell. And a little boy used to think, why is she doing that? Well, I'll tell you why she was doing that. She was doing that to make a difference. To make a difference in all of our lives. You too can make a difference. Don't sit back. Don't do nothing. Don't Don't just say, it's somebody else's problem. Make a difference. Make a difference in the lives of all the people that are around you or you want to help. We all can help in different ways. Thanks for watching, and thanks to New Mind Studios, and of course, our presenting sponsors, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue Global, Blue Cross Blue Shield, FEP Dental, Blue Cross Blue Shield, FEP Vision, and USAA. We appreciate all you do for our military. And as always, see you on the high ground. Hooah!
You've been listening to Your Next Mission, brought to you by the American Freedom Foundation. Learn more by visiting yournextmission.org.